Hello Bread fans, this is Jay of Insane Coaster Junkie, and thank you for 3,000 subscribers here on the YouTube channel. It has been an honor and a pleasure doing this thus far for about 7.5 years, so what other way to celebrate is with another Q&A session. I did one for 2,500, now we're doing another one. And over the past few weeks, I asked you Bread fans to submit questions that you would like me to answer, and it took a little bit of a friendly push and pull, but we got about over 40 submissions for this Q&A, which is better than last time, and you guys really hit it out of the park with this one with some variety here. So without further ado, I'm not going to waste any time, and let's get it on with the Q&A. DJ Higby asks, opinions on Big Rigs. Now, Big Rigs is a kiddie ride that I used to ride all the time. It was one of my childhood favorites. What I can remember from that is that it was a nice scenic truck ride around the park. Nothing really special about it, you know, nowadays, because it's not really meant for my demographic. But for those young kids out there and the smallest of Bread fans, you are going to enjoy this ride, so I definitely recommended it for them. Morgan asks, your go-to meal at Waldameer. Now, funny thing you say that, Morgan, is because I actually did a park and eat of this in the earliest days of this series, and that is actually the pizza and cookie combo. So usually I get pizza at the pizza stand, a slice of cheese pizza, and then I head over to the Hershey house to get a chocolate chip cookie. That is my go-to meal, and if you have not seen the park and eat of it, I'll probably link it down in the description because it really goes into detail why it's my favorite meal at the park. Spider Jared asks, thoughts on fart cakes? First of all. Second of all, they'll probably taste disgusting. It's just probably gas, so I'm not really going to comment much further on that, but no fart cakes. Coaster_world asks, bucket list coaster. Now, I have a couple that I answered in the last Q&A, but I'm going to elaborate on a few more that has since passed the time. And the bucket list coaster I really want to check out is X2 at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Now that coaster looks freaking insane with the 4D seats and how it spins, and it just looks like a disorienting ride. One of our good friends in the community, RMC Ryan, just got the ride not too long ago, and he said it's a great ride. So I'm hoping that at some point I can get to the West Coast and get on that coaster. Cyber Slime Fairy, or Aaron, asks, what part of the merry-go-round at Waldameer is the best, and why is it the Dragons? Now, this is pretty much you answered your own question here, but the Dragons is very special with me because I've been riding that ever since I was younger, and I always thought, you know, it was the special vehicle. And also now in the modern era of Insane Coaster Junkie, the Dragon is basically the winner. Every year I've been doing a Waldameer Derby kind of thing, kind of like the Kentucky Derby. And Jonathan the Dragon has always cheated. So I always have to go pick him and basically be Tom Brady every single year. So that's why I like the Dragons the best. Grace Lyle asks, favorite ride at Cedar Point / Kennywood. Now this is a bit of an easy one for both parks, but for Cedar Point it is obviously Steel Vengeance. That RMC is just pure bliss. I love that ride and there's nothing much more I can say about it. As for Kennywood, that is another easy pick that I really like to talk about, and that's Phantom's Revenge. That Morgan Hyper Coaster, it is basically a steel ravine flyer tube diving down the ravine, has some great ejector airtime, and honestly, back row feels illegal because of the minimal restraints, but I love it. So, very easy question to answer right here. Coaster_Ann asks, what do you think is better, Zadra or Iron Gwazi? Now, I haven't ridden both, but I have to say Zadra in my opinion because it looks like more of a complete ride. Iron Gwazi is pretty much more of the Insano Fest, you know, fast speed, breakneck pacing, basically the I-305 of RMCs, while Zadra feels like more of a complete layout from start to finish. Garacho Bandit asks, how long have you been going to Waldameer? Now that's pretty much another easy question. I've been going there all my life, basically. Ever since the age of 2, I have some pictures of that still remaining, but over 20 years at this point. It's been an honor going to this park every single year, and I've had a season pass to the park since 2017, and that's continuing to this day. And every year I'm just expanding Waldameer to new heights, and it's been going really good so far, and I love what I've been doing for the community. That PA kid actually has 2 questions, and the first question of this is, who is the inspiration for your editing style? Now, we don't talk about the older editing style because you did come in at pretty much the perfect time when I changed the editing style. Back then, I kind of went for the more Coaster Studios Theme Park Worldwide kind of vibe. Nowadays, it's pretty much a mix of El Toro Ryan and Urinating Tree, which I love mixing the best of both worlds with some of the dark humor, the Yinzer language, and basically putting my own spin on that while having credibility to the Rye Guy in the earlier stages of that new editing style. So it is a bit of a complicated answer, but it's a bit of a variety of YouTubers to make that editing style. And the other question he asks is that, what is the best clone coaster to be added to Waldemar other than an RMC Raptor? Now, I do have two options of that if this does not go through. The other two clones I could actually see is either a SNS 40 Free Spin or Skyrocket 2. And both of them would be filling a gap that Waldemar is dreadfully needing in versions. The advantage with the Skyrocket 2 is that basically you can market that as, the biggest launch coaster in the Western Pennsylvania. And it would be awesome for that because Waldemar doesn't have a launch coaster. An SNS 40 Free Spin would definitely work. But I am afraid with the other problems they have with the other SNS coasters in Pennsylvania, a la Steel Curtain or Merlin's Mayhem, that could be possibly an issue. Ferrari Luke actually asked two questions here, and the first question is, lowest golf score for 9 or 18 holes? Now that's a bit difficult because I don't really keep track of my golf scores that much, especially on 18. I mainly golf 9 holes, but if you are wondering, I think it is about a 42 at J.C. Martin. That is right next to the Erie Zoo. It's a very short course, but I really like that course. It's very easy. I've only golfed 18 holes once, and that was at Crabapple Ridge in Waterford. And I don't remember my score on that, but that was the only time I golfed 18. The other question you asked is, what is your craziest story from Waldemar? Now, there's quite a lot of stories I have to tell, but probably the weirdest one I had was when I got pooped on by a seagull at Waterworld. I was basically doing some checks, doing my thing, and basically the seagull decided it hates me now and poops on me. So now I have a personal vendetta against seagulls at the water park. Abby Rose 77 asks, what would be your dream home park? And this is kind of a bit of a reality check, but I feel like after college and living in Erie for a few more years and get a good job somewhere else, my dream home park would obviously be Cedar Point. I've always wanted to move down there to Ohio. I heard housing is a little bit cheaper than it is in Pennsylvania, and it would be a great fresh start because I love Waldemar so much, but at some point in the near future, it will be time to move on and cover a great home park like Cedar Point. It's kind of my home away from home. I love covering that park each year, so that's probably my dream home park. Andrew Cup asks, have you been on the Steel Curtain? Unfortunately, I have been to Kennywood at the worst possible time because I rode everything there, but I was a month short because when I was there, they were still topping off the Drachenfire dive drop, so I wasn't able to ride it. Plus, I missed out Skyrocket because they were still having that part shipped in from Germany. So, I haven't been to Kennywood since June 2019, but I'm hoping to get back on it sooner than later. Buffalo Luke asked me, what made you an enthusiast? Now that's basically a question I actually answered in the last Q&A, but I'll dive a little bit deeper into that rabbit hole. And where I kind of have some of the more earliest traces of that is probably the show iCarly on Nickelodeon. I've always wanted to be Freddie Benson, behind a camera, host, a web show or something. And I kind of did that in my imagination for a few years, and then it modeled into the YouTube channel finally in 2014. So obviously Waldemar is that main route. Some of the YouTubers I watch, as I mentioned in the last Q&A, but definitely in the earliest of earliest roots, probably iCarly. Coaster Ann actually asked another question is, ever planning on going to Europe? Now, I've actually been outside the country before. I have been to Canada for Canada's Wonderland, but in terms of Europe, that is nowhere near the distant future right now. I'm just not ready yet. There's definitely a lot of more American parks that I want to hit up first because there's so many places to go. I haven't been to the West Coast. I haven't been down south. And there's still a lot of gaps I would like to fill before going to Europe. Canada was a great taste of that, but not yet for Europe. Alex, the vice president, asked, do you like nachos? I actually do. The Waldemar ones are actually pretty solid. I tried a park and eat of that last year, but I deleted it because it is your favorite meal, and that's kind of more traditional things. I get the pizza, you get the nachos. It's a bit of a common standard, but I do like nachos. The cheese is really good. And remember, hungry cheese! Specs the Animator actually asked two questions. And the first one is, what is your favorite amusement ride in the world? Now, I have talked about my favorite roller coaster, but I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into more flat ride oriented things. And if you want to get a little bit specific, I have two in my mind right now that I can't decide. It's either Chaos at Waldemar or Rolling Thunder at Six Flags Darien Lake. Both have the category of hang time, especially Rolling Thunder, because Super Loops are actually underrated rides. They're really good, but Chaos really delivers in the positive G department. So in terms of flat rides, those are probably my two. In terms of water slides, it's probably either Rally Racer or Hurricane Hole. Specs the Animator actually asked another question. If you could visit one other park in the US as much as you visit Waldameer, what would it be and why? And actually, this park, I actually visited quite a few times before, but I would like to have more visits. And that's probably Six Flags Darien Lake. Now, I talked about Cedar Point having a future home park, but as I like to have another home away from home for a while, I would like to visit Six Flags Darien Lake more. I go every year for the whole Concerts and Coasters escapade, but 2022, it's kind of delayed. I would love to get back to the park. They got a solid lineup. Ride of Steel is amazing. I would love to explore the water park Hurricane Harbor at some point because they have some really good slides, including Brain Drain is a bucket list. But Darien Lake would be another park I would like to explore just as much as Waldameer and Cedar Point. It would complete that trifecta around the tri-state area. Elevators are amazing, or Jack actually asked two questions as well. And the first one he asked is, what is your favorite cookie to get at Waldameer? And that's a very simple one. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but it's the chocolate chip cookie. Those are actually very warm and gooey. I cannot say much more about it. They are so good. I like M&M, but it's not really my top choice, but definitely chocolate chip for that one. And the other question he asked me is a bit of an origin story. What made you want to say bread fans? Did you look it up or just made it up? Bread fan is a bit of a hard term to explain, but it basically is an origin from my Thunder Mechanics production era in 2016. I started saying Bread Fans because Metallica is my favorite band in the world, and they did a cover called Bread Fan, which is a original song by the Welsh group Budgie they made in 1973. Metallica converted it into their cover in 1988, 15 years later. And nearly 30 years later, I started using it as my tagline, and it's stuck with me ever since. I love saying it, and it just rolls off the tongue, and it's basically J language. It's very fun to say, and it connects the old and the new together, so that's what Bread Fan means. CXDXN asks, coaster count. Now right now my coaster count is 84, but right now my count is a little bit stagnant since 2020 because of the pandemic. It was supposed to be over 100 at this point, but everything, just happened and things hit the bed really hard, so I've been a little bit in limbo for a while, so I would like to get that coaster count up very soon. Coaster Crazy 55 asks, what is your favorite quote-unquote dark ride that you've ever gone on, and your least favorite? Now, my favorite dark ride is obviously Wacky Shack at Waldameer. It's my home park, like I said, and I have a bit of a sentimental value with that ride. And actually, in tomorrow's video, you're going to actually see some behind the scenes, so stay tuned. But Wacky Shack, I just learned a lot about this ride. I grew up with it. And now, after everything, I have learned so much about it, and the whole specs of it is just amazing. And in terms of my least favorite, probably my least favorite isn't really technically a ride, but it's Shrek 4D at Universal Studios Florida. It was more of a movie theater type ride, but they claimed it as kind of a dark ride, and Shrek 4D made no sense. It was basically, one of those D-box seats at a movie theater. Didn't really do much, and I'm glad they removed it. So technically you can kind of call it a dark ride, kind of not, but Shrek 4D sucks. Arthur Harris 2306 says, what is your favorite roller coaster at Shenlong Paradise? Now, like I said before, I haven't been outside North America, so I haven't been over to Europe or China, but I did look on RCDB what would be the most anticipated coaster at that park, and it would probably be the 10 Inversion roller coaster, which is a clone of Colossus at Thorpe Park. These intimate loopers are really bizarre layouts. I have ridden Fahrenheit at Hershey Park, and I thought it was basically a Gerstlauer or Eurofighter on steroids. So something like 10 Inversion roller coaster kind of gives you that feel, especially the quadruple Heartline roll. That's probably one of my more anticipated elements. But like I said, China's kind of far out there for me at the moment, so I can't really elaborate more on that question for you. A Hef asks, do you have a least favorite roller coaster? Yes and no, because it might change, but right now it's Predator at Six Flags Darien Lake. I did talk about it in the last Q&A that I really hate Predator, but there is one caveat about this that might change. Now, recently they just added Titan Track to it, the GCI makeover of Steel Track on some of the rougher sections, especially the dive. So I'm hoping that whenever I get the chance to go back on that ride at Darien Lake, I'm hoping that it can be somewhat more of a tolerable ride. The next one down that's probably my least favorite coaster is Time Warp, so if Predator improves, Time Warp is officially my #1 worst coaster. Foxy Onyx actually asked 4 questions here, which is a bit of a surprise, but let's go through them all. So what's the best and worst coaster you ever been on? Now, I said it before and I'll say it again. Steel Vengeance as the best, Predator as the worst. Have you ever gotten a headache from a coaster? Sometimes when I marathon Ravine Flyer 2 too much, I do get a headache of it, but it's very rare for me to get a headache on a ride. What's the first thing you look for when you enter a new park? Now, when I go to a new park, I'm obviously looking at the coaster lineup to see what's the best thing, but I'm also evaluating crowds, how good the park looks, any food that I eat. If I do a parking in, I'm looking at the quality of it. And I'm just looking at mainly the atmosphere and how am I going to enjoy the park. Every time I go to a new park, it's amazing to see the difference between the first park I went to and the last park I went to and probably the next park I go to. It's a little bit of an assembly line, but I look for pretty much all aspects of the amusement park and what videos I want to make. So basically all the videos that I make, vlogs, amusement drive-through, parking, challenges, etc., they all integrate as one. What is your dream coaster, one you haven't ridden? And like I said, I have a lot of bucket list coasters, and I'll probably go with another one on this. But I definitely want to get on Silver Comet at New Niagara Amusement Park. Now, this is the park that was owned by Apex, and it closed down in 2020, but luckily, Gene Staples, the owners of Indiana Beach, saved this park, so they are adding a Schwarzkopf shuttle loop, which used to be Cascabel at La Ferreira. So I'm very excited to see that, but mainly Silver Comet because I never ridden a CCI wooden coaster, and that looks really good in the laterals department. So I'm really interested to see how that ride feels. John Neri asks, top things you love about Waldameer? Oh goodness, this is a hard question actually. My top favorite things, it's basically the atmosphere, the charm, and the people. I don't really look at the rides or the food or anything about it. Those are just secondary to me, but it's mainly the atmosphere and that charm that really keeps me coming back. And it just has that family-friendly atmosphere, one of those feel-good parks that you could just relax for a half day or full day, depending on what you're doing. I can't really say much. What's there more to say about Waldameer that I have not said before? Skulls, Animatronics, Inflatables, and more ask, what is the current status of Conneaut Lake Park, and will you be returning to Conneaut if the said park is still in existence? Now, this is complicated to answer here because Conneaut Lake Park is a little bit in limbo. After the whole Blue Streak fire in January of this year, I'm not sure how I feel. Todd Joseph is saying, oh, we're going to open the park in July. And the website is still promoting some of their rides like Devil's Den and Octopus, for example. So it is a little bit more of a gray area what I feel. And if the park somehow opens, I'm still planning on going there regardless what happens because I need to see what this park looks like for myself at this point. Without Blue Streak, I don't think there's much time left. I'm still saying the park's going to close very soon. Marching in time farewell, basically. Angel Fisher asks, favorite fun fact you learned about an amusement park? And it's actually a little bit more of an obscure one, but it's mainly the Bill Tracy dark rides, because outside of the coasters, I am mainly looking for dark rides, and Bill Tracy dark rides are obviously my favorite types. Now, there are only 7 left in existence, and we have 2 with Wacky Shack and Pirates Cove, but there was other majestic attractions such as Terror Ride, Lagoon, and the 2 at Trippers, including the Haunted House and their Pirates Cove. And just learning about Bill Tracy's life, how he was a little bit incoherent with math, I just really like that little process of learning about some of the coolest old school dark rides. And I wish more modern ones like that were built. JNP asks, how about a top 10 list of the roller coasters you have personally ridden? Now, I do have a Bread Fans guide. I'll have a link in the description for that video that I did last December, where I talk about my top 20. But right now, as of this recording, there is some changes with the top 10. Personally, I'm not going to say which numbers, but there are some controversial changes coming very soon. Matt Rave asks, what made you want to start a YouTube channel about amusement parks? Now, this kind of goes to the whole origin story, but I want to go back to the more Waldameer origins of the story. Because back when I was younger, I used to watch a lot of rFlyer01 videos. Basically, his overviews of Waldameer, riding the Wacky Shacks, stuff like that. And I was marvelized by how he could make those videos. And I watched them for years. And in later years, I would get into more YouTubers like Coaster Studios. And I wanted to be something like him. As the years got on, I wanted to change, stuff and add my own flair. And that's still the case today. I want to evolve of what I'm doing. Because if I keep doing the same stuff it's going to get boring and stale after a while, like a stale Cheez-Its. So I really like what I'm doing now, and it's only going to get better. Train Club Northwest New York asks, why doesn't Alex McGrogan get more airtime in videos? Will we ever see videos that solely feature Alex? Now, unfortunately, due to current world events right now, we can't really do the full potential of what we want to do. Just because Alex is my vice president of the channel doesn't mean he has to make videos. I'm not forcing him to do anything. He's still going to be in videos, don't worry. He has been an awesome contributor, and he has been a main contributor on a couple other occasions, such as the rebranding of Parking Eat in early 2020, as well as the creation of Amusement Drive-Thru, one of the greatest filler series I've ever done. So Alex has quite of an impact on his resume on Insane Coaster Junkie. Ems Edits asks, are there really any parks you really want to visit outside the US you've never been to? And yes, there is a huge list, especially in Europe. And I want to highlight a couple parks, specifically Alton Towers, Thorpe Park, Phantasialand, Europa Park, and especially Energylandia. Energylandia is a huge bucket list park. They got coasters coming out of every butthole. So that's basically a couple of the parks I really want to visit outside the US. Definitely want to visit stuff in Mexico, Japan, stuff like that, but one country at a time. XD_PureFlow asks, how do you feel about the new rule on Scrambler of no single riders? I am kind of a little bit hesitant about it when I first saw it, but I kind of do understand why there's a no single rider rule. If you look at some of the other scramblers in the country, specifically the one at Cedar Point, they do have seatbelts, as Spider Jared has confirmed for me. And I feel like Waldameer needs to get seatbelts if they want to get rid of the rule. I'm okay with the rule for right now. I feel like it's just a temporary band-aid to a permanent fixture. We'll just have to deal with it, I guess. There's nothing really much you can do. Waldameer Enthusiast asks, what year do you expect Waldameer's next major coaster? This is a bit of a gray area because there are some articles that I've just recently found out about. Mr. Nelson wanted to extend the park for the next 10 years, $50 million expansion. But if I want to give a little bit of a pinpoint, I'm probably not saying until at least 2025. We had to wait 12 years between Ravine Flyer 2 and Whirlwind. Hopefully we don't have to wait another 12 years. That would take us to 2032. But I'm saying 2025 at the earliest to get a new coaster for the park. Ricky the Director asks, can you do a How to Ride of Alibaba? Now, I hate to burst your bubbles here, but I no longer do How to Rides. I kind of quit that series after 2020. And basically, the POVs I feature now in the vlogs are more higher quality. And How to Rides, even though they are my most popular series that I have ever done, there's not really a need for them anymore. I just took some factors into consideration. You know, 2 and 2 add together. I really wasn't really interested in How to Rides anymore, as I have been exploring with other segments. And the last question to end off this video is actually from my Uncle Locobo, and he has asked 5 questions for me. If you could bring back one ride or attraction from Waldameer's past to enjoy for one day, what would it be and why? And this is an easy one. The Bump, the flying coaster. And the Bump was basically similar to Kangaroo at Kennywood. I have ridden Kangaroo, and it's an awesome ride. And I just wish for one day I could ride the Bump, and it would be an awesome ride, and I wish they still had that to this day. Number 2, the Waldameer of today looks very different from the Waldameer of 50 years ago in 1972. What do you think the park will look like 50 years from now in 2072? I'm going to probably go with an easy family question. It would probably be me as owner. It'll probably be Jadamir at some point. I'll probably have an RMC Raptor and all these big coasters. I will be shocked if I still have Ravine Flyer on there. Maybe Titan Track will be on there at that point. I just don't know how to predict 50 years from now, Uncle. That's a bit of a sensitive subject. What's one thing you learned working at Waldameer that you wish you'd known 7 years ago? Just how the park operates on a day-to-day basis. You know, the behind the scenes, how they get ready for opening and stuff. In a perfect world, what would be your dream amusement park related job when you graduate? Now, probably the more realistic option is to kind of do what you do with the news stations or something. But in a dream world where everyone can dream, I would really like to be like a film producer or something for a park. A lot of people ask me, why doesn't Waldameer sponsor me to be like their official social media manager or something? That would be a great occupation for me. The more realistic option is something in a newsroom, but one can dream. And the last question to end off, will the gift shop ever bring back the Switchblade combs? Please. I still have mine in my drawer somewhere. I'll have to bring it over at some point. But yes, they need to bring back the Switchblade combs. Those were amazing. This is my copy from 2015. And it's basically this. This little comb thing. and you can just comb your hair as you please. Please bring these back, Waldemir, and bring back Rollerball. So that'll do it here for Insane Coaster Junkie for the 3,000 subscriber Q&A. I want to thank personally everybody who has submitted a question for this. I had a lot of fun reading them. Some questions were a little bit harder to answer than others due to certain things around me that I can and cannot say, but I had a lot of fun. And thank you guys again for 3,000 subscribers. Like I said, it's an honor and privilege to do this YouTube channel, and I have bright plans for the future to keep expanding on what I'm doing and loving. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the parks very soon.